happening in the globe, the media houses in Jamaica are not talking about it. I'm going to say it again. Courtney, listen to me and take out your books right now. Because we're shifting from local politics to global politics right now. Are you aware of what is happening? Today, President Trump imposed another 50% tariff on China.
50%.
Another 50% tariffs was applied to China. Producer, can you play the report with the man being interviewed? Because I don't think the world understands or Jamaica understand what is coming, you know. I want you to hear tonight, Jamaica, what is coming.
You wrote an op-ed for the New York Times. You know what it says, but my audience doesn't, so let me go through it a little bit. Quote, your life will never be the same after these tariffs. You wrote also, these tariffs are going to hurt a lot. By my calculations, this round of tariffs may be 50 times as painful as the ones Donald Trump instituted in his first term. Simple question, why?
Yeah, so this is not just bluster. This is actually what basic economics tells us. Look, there's two things that tariffs do. The higher tariffs are, the less we trade with others. That, of course, means that, you know, the car you wanted to buy, you make do with something else. And then the higher tariffs get, the more you end up making do with worse and worse substitutes. The net result of that is a pretty basic economic idea, which is small tariffs aren't much of a problem, but big tariffs can cause enormous pain. And if you simply work through the math of this, it turns out that this set of tariffs will be 50 times more painful than the last set. And that's because this time it's much, much higher tariffs, and it applies to every country and every good. Every part of your life is about to change.
And Justin, when the president says, and his economic advisors speaking on his behalf also say, we simply want countries that trade with us to buy as much of our goods as we buy of theirs. Is that practical?
No. Look, it's about as practical as me saying that I wish that Trader Joe's would buy as much of my stuff as I buy of theirs. I go to the grocery store, I spend a lot of money there. I do so willingly because I can use what I get for that money, food, to feed and nourish my family. But Trader Joe's and I don't have balanced trade the same way China and the United States don't have balanced trade. I turn up to Trader Joe's, I offer to sell them economics lectures, but it turns out they don't want to buy what it is I'm selling. Now, it doesn't create any economic problems because the University of Michigan is willing to buy what I'm selling. So overall, Justin Wolfers Inc. is doing just fine. And the same logic goes for the United States. Overall, the US gets a pretty good deal out of international trade. We buy some stuff, we sell some stuff, and all of our lives are enriched because we get plugged into the enormous variety of wonderful products that people all around the world make for us and with us.
If Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, were here, Justin, he might say, okay, let's take your example. Justin Wolfers Inc. goes into Trader Joe's, but Trader Joe's, if it's China, uses hackers to steal information from your iPhone. That's intellectual property. It manipulates its currency, which makes your dollar go less far than it otherwise would. And it subsidizes its products in ways you can't for your incorporation. They say all of those things underlie an unfair trade relationship. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think when you tried to make his story make sense, it sounded utterly absurd. Look, there are serious trading issues. There are, for instance, big questions about intellectual property theft from China. If that's the question you want to solve, then what you need to do is think about tariffs and reaching out to the Chinese on the specific set of strategic goods. It doesn't tell you that you want to put tariffs on Australia, tariffs on Madagascar, tariffs on India, tariffs on the whole world. If what you have is strategic goals, you have strategic tariffs. What we have is across-the-board tariffs, which appear to have no real rationale at all.
And Justin, I want to ask you something that my colleague Aaron Navarro brought up when he was joining us from the North Lawn of the White House, quoting the president saying, America's wealth was never greater by percentage than the years 1870 to 1913. Evaluate that.
Stupid. Moronic. Let's be serious about this. There was no outdoor plumbing, no indoor plumbing. You had to go outside to use the toilet. You didn't have antibiotics. You didn't have vaccines. You barely owned anything. Even just go back to your grandparents' era. Your grandparents probably grew up with 3 wooden toys. My kids grow up with enormously more. Look, if you want to go back to 1890, he's got exactly the right set of policies in place.
What is the short-term risk for the average investor in this country, the average consumer?
Both. Look, I've had all sorts of older Americans reach out to me over the past couple of days, terrified because their portfolio, their 401ks and their retirement plans are down 10% and they can't afford to lose that. By the same token, every one of us wakes up every day and we try and get our paycheck as far as we can. We want to feed our families and we want to be able to buy iPhones and we want to be able to clothe our families. And it turns out the reason we can afford to do those things is because the United States is really good at doing a bunch of things. For instance, we're really good at writing software, so we design the software behind the iPhone. Other countries are really good at other things, for instance, putting the iPhone together. And if we brought iPhone manufacturing onshore, it would be the same phone, but it would be $3,000 and no one's life would be any better off as a result.
Jamaica. President Trump is threatening to add an additional 50% to the tariffs on China. Stock markets around the world are crashing. Stock markets around the globe are crashing. The entire world is in a reactive state. And they're not telling you what is coming. Even the great Canada, as we speak, is making it clear to its citizens that with what Trump is doing, recession is inevitable. But I am not hearing from the government of Jamaica that this is going to happen. I am not hearing the finance minister, nor the prime minister, nor the foreign minister, nor the minister of industry to telling you what is about to happen. We are heading into a global recession. We are heading into a global depression. Already, many Jamaicans are finding it hard. Many Jamaicans are finding it hard to eat, Courtney.
Every single day.
Majority of the items that are on our shelves are imported items. Look at how the toy industry in America. Look at how the toy industry in America. I want to show you something. Producer, show them how the toy industry in America is affected.
The trade war is making business at Shazam's toy store. Anything but fun and games. How much of your store depends on imports?
Wow, over 90%.
To get ahead of tariffs, owners Joanne Ferrugia and Dean Smith dipped into their cash savings, spending $400,000, nearly double their usual budget to stockpile toys and books.
We scrambled to figure out which countries were being affected in what way. And then when we saw the list, it felt like there was nowhere to run.
What happens when you use up that stockpile?
Then we're going to be subject to these tariffs.
The U.S. is home to 3% of the world's children, but buys 38% of the world's toys. Last year, the industry was valued at $42 billion.
Consumers might look at things like toys and think, hey, is this discretionary spending? Do we really have to have it? What do you say to that?
So, as a toy store co-owner, I would say yes, because a child's work is play, and so this all matters.
With no way to absorb all the extra costs, Jazam says it will be forced to pass them on or close its doors.
It feels right now that small businesses are being abandoned. That's tragic.
And Nancy Chen joins us now. So why is it that toy stores can't absorb these costs?
Well, the profit margin for a lot of these smaller stores is already so slim that costs will likely be passed on. The Toy Association tells me that costs for these toys could go up anywhere from 35 to 54% or the full amount of the tariff.
And Nancy, remind us of the role that small business plays in, everybody hears about Wall Street, but
Yes.
the role small business plays in the economy.
Small businesses fuel the U.S. economy. They make up 99.9% of the U.S. businesses.
Okay, Nancy Chen.
Small businesses make up 90% of the Jamaican economy. And with the imposition, if he carries the 50% tariff on China, you know what that means, Courtney and Jamaica? The tariff coming from China will be 104%. And majority of what sells in Jamaica is made in China.
Exactly.
So when you normally get a pants downtown for $1,000 or $1,500, the pants now going to be $3,500. When you used to get a blouse downtown for $500, now it's going to be $1,500.
Yes.
You want me to talk to you about the food? These are conversations that your government is not having with you. And this was the same thing that happened when Audley Shaw in 2007 under Bruce Golding was Prime Minister and he was Finance Minister. They failed to tell the people. They failed to tell the people what was coming. Did you hear Trump's response? I don't think they hear Trump respond. Today, stock markets being affected. Listen to Trump's response to the stock markets affected Jamaica.
I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. And we have such a horrible, we have been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen. They took our businesses, they took our money, they took our jobs, they moved it to Mexico, they moved it to Canada, they moved a lot of it to China, and it's not sustainable. We're not going to do it. Now we have hundreds of billions of dollars is pouring into our country. On a monthly basis, it's pouring, it's already started because they put tariffs on. And eventually it's going to straighten out and our country will be solid and strong again.
His argument is that the US will be solid and strong again. But as we speak, there are demonstrations in New York and right across America, Chaos being fueled everywhere, And if I recall, Audley Shaw told the country, the recession will not affect us. By the end of 2007, everybody a ball. You think it's there, Salon? Look at the lumber industry. Play the report on the lumber industry, the producer. Play the report.
That our government's going to be expanding access.
The lumber industry.
It's just rubble. I mean, it looks like a war zone.
This is the first time Jake Downey returned to the building his family owned since the Palisades fire burned it to the ground.
This is Sunset Gardens. This is the apartment building that my grandmother built in 1959.
He has fond childhood memories of visiting her here and playing in the pool. Now all 14 units are gone. His family is determined to rebuild, but it will come at a high cost.
Well, I think that everyone is going to have sticker shock when they rebuild.
That's in part due to the rising cost of lumber. $5.9 billion worth of wood products were imported from Canada last year. During the Biden administration, the duty tax rose to almost 14.5%, and it's on schedule to more than double by early fall. If the president adds a 25% tariff, that would bring the combined import tax on Canadian lumber to more than 50% and increase the cost of building a home by about $10,000.
Everyone is really scared on what's going to happen. And I think the answer is they're saying if you can buy now, buy now.
Contractor Joseph Peretz is helping rebuild homes in fire-ravaged communities in Los Angeles and says he's already seen businesses hoarding building supplies.
I think a big chunk of the lumber went to a couple of different lumber houses. They sold it to only their best buyers, and then they're holding it for their projects, or even worse, they're holding it to price gouge smaller contractors.
He says homes in the more affluent Pacific Palisades will likely be rebuilt faster than those in working class Altadena. Competition for supplies and workers will be fierce.
I think the rich get their supplies first, which is sad, but that's what happens.
Back at Sunset Gardens in the Palisades, Downey ran into the Torres family who lived in the building for 8 years.
We want to try to bring this back, but I know it's going to be a while.
Have you thought about what rebuilding is going to be like when you're doing it with 16,000 other people across Los Angeles County?
Yeah, it's daunting, but we have to do it. We simply must.
Now, wood from Canada is also used to make other products like toilet paper. The main ingredient for many toilet paper manufacturers is Canadian softwood pulp. Now, lumber tariffs would likely shrink the supply of that pulp, increasing prices and potentially causing a pandemic-style toilet paper shortage.
Carter Evans is Los Angeles.
You hear that? And if you recall, Audley Shaw told Jamaica in 2007 that the recession will benefit Jamaica. Do you remember that? Who remembered Audley Shaw told Jamaica that the recession will benefit Jamaica? Equally, your Prime Minister is saying that in playing chess games. But imagine chess game being played and Jamaicans are not being told the realities. Importers. The importer is not going to take that additional money on them. The additional money or the additional taxes that are to be paid or to be paid is you, the consumer, at the end. You, the consumer, at the end, is going to feel it. And I have the power to keep you aware because the media houses in Jamaica are not telling you about it. They are not telling you what is about to come. Dark days. Imagine the Mexican president say, with what Trump has done, she's going to reciprocate. Meaning say, if a 40% Trump say, a 40% she has say. Now you understand why Mia Amor Mottley spoke the way she spoke last night. Mia told you in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Barbados, St. Vincent, Bahamas, St. Lucia, Antigua, Dominica Republic. Mia told you dark days around the shore. Can you play a producer? Play about the first part of what Mia Amor Mottley told the Caribbean that is coming.
Good day. I speak to all our Caribbean brothers and sisters today, not as the Prime Minister of Barbados, but in my capacity as Chair of the Caribbean Community. Our world is in crisis. I will not sugarcoat it. These are among the most challenging of times for our region, since the majority of our members gained their independence. Indeed, it is the most difficult period our world has faced since the end of World War II, 80 years ago. Our planet faces a climate catastrophe that worsens every year. We have a cost of living crisis that has been bedeviling us since the disruption of supply chains when the COVID-19 pandemic triggered the shutdown of the majority of countries. Misinformation, disinformation, and manipulation are running rampant. The mental health crisis is causing hopelessness among many of our young people. And regrettably, crime and fear is on the rise. We're fighting wars in the Holy Land, in Europe, and in Africa. Countries are distrustful of countries, and neighbors are distrustful of neighbors. The international order and the international system, my friends, is in grave danger of collapse. And now, we are on the precipice of a global trade war. Our Caribbean economies are largely reliant on imports. Just go to the supermarket or visit the mall or the hardware shop or the electronics store, and you will see that most of the things there are not produced in this region. Many of those commodities are either purchased directly from the United States of America or pass through the United States of America on their way to the Caribbean region. That, my friends, is a legacy of our colonial dependence. Together with colleague heads of state and heads of government, we have been working to diversify ourselves away from this dependence. We've already started to reap some successes, especially in the field of agriculture, for example, but we still have a long way to go. As we do this work, we have to be mindful that those recent announcements that have been made in the last few days will impact us very directly as a region and as a Caribbean people. We are working and will continue to work to become more self-sufficient. But I want every Caribbean man and every Caribbean woman to hear me. This trade war and the possibility of a $1 million to $1.5 million levy on all Chinese-made ships entering U.S. harbors will mean higher prices for all of us at the corner shop, higher prices at the supermarket, higher prices at the electronics store, higher prices for us at the shop, higher prices for us at the restaurant, higher prices for us at the car dealership and beyond. A lot of Caribbean people will think that these things that you are seeing on television news or reading about are far away and they don't impact on me. A lot of people think I'm just a farmer, or I'm just a school teacher, or I'm just a mechanic. They say, I live in St. Lucie in Barbados, or I live in Portmore in Jamaica, or Kingstown in St. Vincent, or Rima in Trinidad, or Basse-Terre in St. Kitts, or San Ignacio in Belize. These problems are far away from me and they don't impact me. That is what you will hear them say. But the reality, my friends, is that if you buy food, if you buy electronics, if you buy clothes, it will impact you. It will impact each of us. My brothers and sisters, our Caribbean economies are not very large. So we are and have always been at the whims of global prices. If Europe and China and the US and Canada and Mexico are all putting tariffs on each other, that is going to disrupt supply chains. That is going to raise the cost of producing everything from the food you eat to the clothes on your back, to the phone in your pocket, to the car you drive down the road, to the spare parts that you need for critical infrastructure. That means higher prices for all of us to pay. And sadly, yes, this will impact all of you, regardless of what any of our Caribbean governments will do. We could lower our tariffs to zero in CARICOM, and it will not make a lick of difference because our economies are small and vulnerable. This crisis, my friends, will impact not only goods, but it may also have a large spillover effect on tourism. We suggest that the region take steps to sustain the tourism industry, as likely worsening conditions in many of our source markets will have negative impacts on people's ability to travel. We call on our regional private sector and the tourism sector to come together and to work with governments to collaborate for an immediate tourism strategy to ensure that we maintain market share numbers as a...
You heard that tonight. And in context of what you're seeing happening around the globe, talk to anyone who does stocks and cryptocurrency. Talk to anyone who does stocks and bonds. And when you listen to that, Jamaica, when you see what is coming, you heard what me and Mottley said? It is going to affect us because our local economies in the Caribbean are small. And small economies will suffer because of a trade war between America and China, a trade war between America and Canada, a trade war between America and Europe, a trade war between America and Mexico. So it was what you called a spillover. The spillover effect. And what it happens to the consumer, you hear them say cryptocurrency crashing too. What happened is that the small people, there is something called a pass-through cost. In economics, they call it a pass-through cost. A pass-through cost is incurred by one entity. Example, a contractor or company or a business, but it is ultimately borne by the other entity. A client, a related party, or a customer. So the pass-through cost of the tariffs, the pass-through cost of the taxes, them your business, you're not take it, you know. The business is going to put it on you, the consumer. So stocks went down today. Bonds went down today. Cryptocurrency crashing left, right, and center. And coupled with that, governments. Governments, Jamaica. Government in Jamaica. I don't know what other Caribbean governments are telling their people. But I've not heard this man come to you. I've not heard the finance minister come to you and say brace for impact. The man tell you that him play what? Chess. The man are telling us if we go find new markets to go and export.
Yes.
But he must equally remember when he's telling you about the new markets, for you to go into those new markets, the routes that you have to take, many of which you still have to go through the America route. So I am saying to you tonight, people, until you start hearing the media reports, because no founder no believe what I am saying, you know. But when you go to the supermarket, 2 weeks from now, you know, as a matter of fact, you will start seeing the impact when you go to the market and the wholesale this weekend. You will start seeing the impact when you look at your sister, baby feeding gone up by $500 or $800. You will feel the impact when you look at the box of pasta moving from $520 to $890. You will feel the impact when you go and you look at the baby diaper, and the baby diaper move from $1,500 of diaper to $3,200. You will feel the impact when you see the rice. The rice move from, how much for 10 pounds of rice now? But the rice not going to move. You're going to feel it when you see the cost of flour. You're going to see it and feel it for the cost of cornmeal and sugar. You're going to feel it when you see the cost for saltfish. A pound of saltfish in another week or two is going to be about $1,200, you know. You're going to see it for the red peas.
My goodness.
You're going to see it for the gungo peas. You're going to feel it.
Breastfeed Jamaica.
You're going to see it and you're going to feel it. Jamaica, what I'm telling you tonight, dark days are ahead. Mottley said something. The Chinese ships coming into the American harbors. The Chinese ships are going to be incurred with those taxes. Those ships equally have to come into the Caribbean waters. And I'm going to say this. If governments don't make you understand the realities, you know, there are three things that are working against Jamaica right now. Tariffs, inflation, and devaluation. It's not one thing working against us, you know, Jamaica. There are three things working against the people of Jamaica. Tariffs, inflation, and devaluation. I'm going to say it again. There are three things working against the Jamaican economy. Tariffs, inflation, devaluation. And you know the fourth thing that I'm going to add to it, Courtney? The lack of production. So the lack of production, tariffs, inflation, devaluation. And you know, coupled with all of that, visionary leadership. Visionary leadership.